Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we'll be looking at Holy Paladin changes, and this is the big one. This is the first big changes for Holy Paladin. I had a look at the rest of Druid, rest of Shaman, and it's been a while. I've been waiting for this for a while. So Holy Paladins have been changed quite a bit, beacons have been changed a bit, talents have been introduced, talents have been removed, all of this crazy stuff. Now for the people who are reading the changes, things like that, you see, like, you know, your Holy Light has been changed from 425 to 140 spell power in terms of efficiency and things like that. You have to keep in mind there's a lot of spell tuning, so I'm not going to look at the nerfs of the abilities that are already there, because a lot of the healers got their spells reduced. This is all part of what Blizzard is going with in terms of numbers. This is going to change a lot. I'm looking at talent changes. I'm looking at core mechanic changes in the way that you're going to be stacking your secondary stats, in the way that you're going to be using your primary abilities, primary talents and things like that. So keep that in mind. So first of all, in terms of Holy Paladin, Wings, Avenging Wrath has been changed. So if you read the notes, you almost think like Avenging Wrath or Wings have been removed, and you're like, whoa. But what happened basically, that Holy Paladin are going to share their wings, or in terms of what wings do, with Prot Paladins and Retribution Paladins. So instead of 35% healing done increased and critical hit increased by 20%, now Holy Paladins will get your damage, healing and critical chance will be increased by 20%. So you will be dealing more damage, a bit less healing. So I mean, it's not a huge change. Holy Paladins already deal quite a bit of damage. A bit more damage on top of that makes for more viability. I'm fine with it. It's not huge, it's not too big, it's okay, it's still okay. Now let's look at Holy Shock crit changes, and this is a relatively big one. So right now in live servers, Holy Shock has doubled the normal critical strike chance. So what that means is that every Holy Paladin will try to reach 50% crit from their gear. With 50% crit, your Holy Shock will crit 100% of the time, because double the chance. Now with this crit, you will get Infusion of Light proc. Now Infusion of Light proc will reduce the cast time of your Holy Light by 1.5 seconds, or increase the healing of your next flashlight by 50%. So you get a big incentive for getting that 50%. So there is a big hard cap on a secondary stat for Holy Paladin. Now what Blizzard did is they basically removed double the normal critical strike chance portion of it, and they said Holy Shock has an additional 25% critical effect chance. So if I'm reading this right, it's basically you will have to gather 75% crit from your secondary stats in order to cap your Holy Shock crit, which is probably never going to happen. So I'm pretty sure it's the way the Blizzard is going to remove stacking a certain secondary or getting a hard cap. At the same time, you'll be like, what if I don't crit? I'm losing out on this Infusion of Light proc. Infusion of Light is so strong. Infusion of Light actually has been nerfed as well on top of it. So instead of the reduce the cast time of your Holy Light by 1.5, it'll be 1 second, and increase the healing of your flashlight by 50, it'll be 30%. So there's been a significant nerf in Infusion of Light. There's been a significant nerf in terms of Holy Shock proc ability, which in terms will mean that I'm not sure what secondary stats are going to be really strong for Holy Paladins, considering that you won't be able to reach a crit cap, most likely, in Battle for Azeroth, but we have to see. So it could be that Blizzard does not want a certain class to have a hard cap as of yet. I'm not sure how that's going to change yet, but it's interesting. Now, Beacon of Lightbringer has been removed. Beacon of Lightbringer has seen some usage into Mercenaries, has seen some niche usage in certain boss fights, but let's be honest, Beacon of Fate, which gives you 2 beacons, has been very strong in nearly every encounter. In every raid encounter, you'll bring at least 2 tanks, sometimes 3. So having 2 beacons is basically the only talent you're going to go with. It's the only talent that you're going to use in a raid scenario. So Beacon of Fate and the removal of Beacon of Lightbringer is basically removing niche talents. Now, I kind of wish they actually worked with it a bit more, because I actually enjoyed Beacon of Lightbringer to a certain extent, but it is gone as of right now. Fervor Martyr. I'm not sure I'm saying it right. Like, I didn't even know this existed. I did know this existed, but this was a highly unutilized talent. It's a talent that works with Light of the Martyr. Light of the Martyr is any talent or anything to do with Light of the Martyr has been really weird in Legion. This needed rework from the very beginning. It's something that was never ever used. This being gone, most people won't even probably realize this was ever there, or if it's been removed. So I'm not sad. So now let's move on to new talents, and I'm really excited about this. So Avenging Crusader, which actually replaces your Avenging Wrath, your wings, and has a 1.5 minute cooldown, so 1.5 minute cooldown. And Avenging Wrath wings have 2 minute cooldown, so you have to keep that in mind. But you become an unlimited Crusader of Light, increasing your Crusader Strike, Judgment, and auto attack damage by 30%. Keep that in mind. Crusader Strike and Judgment cooldown 30% faster, and when you deal damage with those abilities, 3 injured allies will be healed for a certain percentage of the damage done and last 20 seconds. 20 seconds is actually quite long for a 1.5 minute cooldown. Really cool in my eyes. Why is it really cool? Because you are a Holy Paladin. Your mastery, which affects the proximity, affects your healing based on the proximity of targets around you. You are viewed as a melee by the game. You won't be targeted by range abilities. So a Holy Paladin who's in range, who is in melee range, won't be getting like huge red circles or whatever. Like, you have to keep in mind, Holy Paladin is a melee class by the game. Holy Paladin should always, or a lot of the time, should spend within the melee camp. So there's a drawback from Avenging Crusader. You have to be in melee, which is not that big of a deal because I spend a lot of my time in melee camp, and actually damaging is really cool. Doing damage and healing targets, I think, is actually a really cool incentive, and I've been saying this for a very long time. Give healing classes an incentive to deal damage. We want something like a Disc Priest, but not to the same extent. We want some incentive for a healer to deal damage, and by dealing damage, you're healing the targets. And you believe me, if you start introducing these kind of abilities for every healer, you'll see more healers doing damage during 5 mans and things like that, because there's a direct incentive there. And I'm really happy about this, and I can't wait to actually try it out and actually use it myself. Avenging Crusader, good job, especially considering that Holy Paladins always had an option of either doing damage or doing healing through like wings, Sanctified Wrath talent. Like, you had an option of things like Crusader Might as well. You had an option of like, do I deal damage or do I actually heal? Because I can't do both with those kind of cooldowns. So it's interesting to see that they're introducing a new talent that's through damage you will heal. So now let's move on to another new talent that's been sparked from a legendary. So Awakening, which is basically a better version of the Topless Tower legendary. First of all, if Blizzard wanted to introduce a legendary into Holy Paladin Arsenal, into a baseline talent, into a baseline ability or a talent, why the Topless Tower? Like, I mean, Light of Dawn has a 15% chance to grant you Avenging Wrath for 10 seconds. That's the Awakening. That's the Awakening talent, which is better than the Topless Tower, which Light of Dawn had the 10% chance to grant you Avenging Wrath for 8 seconds. Now, first of all, it does use a deck system, or at least the Legendary was using a deck system in the game, so it wasn't completely random. After a certain amount of Light of Dawn casts, you will get a proc off this, but let's say it procs when you're moving. Let's say it procs on a bad situation where there's no healing required. What are you going to do? You're going to use Flashlight, Holy Lights. Like, I mean, you have to stand still and things like that. So it can't be completely wasted. It depends. It can't be completely wasted. I'm not a huge fan of proc-based abilities, but Holy Paladin seems to be all about that procs right now, especially with the Holy Shock critting. Like, you know, you can crit or not. You won't have a crit cap, or at least for the time being, it doesn't seem you will. It doesn't seem to have the same effect like as other proc legendaries for other healers. Like, I'm gonna give an example of Resto Druid Chameleon Song. So Chameleon Song, Wild God has a 15% chance to grant you Incarnation Tree of Life for 12 seconds. Now, it's different. It's different for Resto Druid because if you get the tree form, it will reduce the base mana cost of your rejuvenations. So for those 12 seconds, you can put out a lot of rejuvenations who are going to last 20 plus seconds, depending if you have relics like persistence and things like that. So there is less chance of wasting this chameleon proc chance. And even with that, Chameleon Song is still not like the, oh my god, the best legendary ever. It's still quite random and still not used by many people, and I can see why not. And I don't see many Holy Paladins actually enjoying Awakening, enjoying the proc, the randomness of being a proc healer. In my opinion, they should have actually looked into like turning Marad's Dying Breath into a specific talent, because Marad's Dying Breath, like every time you use Light of Dawn, and then you'll tie in your Light of the Martyr, it's kind of cool because Light of the Marat doesn't see that many uses right now, and Marat's Dying Breath is actually a very strong legendary for 5-mans, and it gives you this combo effect, Light of Dawn, and then you're kind of like looking to heal someone. To the same extent, the way that tier 20 worked, for 5 seconds after casting Light of Dawn, your healing spells would transfer additional 40% to your Beacon of Light target. So every time you use the Light of Dawn, you could have like different, like a combo of abilities that you use to transfer more to your Beacon of Light. Or if you use Beacon of Virtue to the whole group when you pop your Beacon of Virtue. So tier 20 and Marat's Dying Breath has this combo effect to the class, which feels really good in my opinion. In my opinion, it provides, like every time you light on Marat, that you have this kind of combo going. And I feel it could work really, really well. Topless Tower or the Awakening talent, too orangey for me. Not the best choice in my opinion. I would like I mentioned, I have other opinions, but let me know how you feel about this. Let me know. This is all open to discussion. Now, let's look at some of the talents. So Beacon of Fate, so a talent that gives you 2 beacons or an additional beacon, so you have 2 beacons overall. Your heals will now heal both of your beacons, but at a 30% reduced effectiveness. It used to be 20%, but now it's 30%, so it's been nerfed. It's been nerfed. Not a big nerf, but it has been nerfed. And it's big. You know why it's big? Because we have to look at the certain talents. We have to look at the talents and how they're looking. So if we look at the Battle for Azeroth Holy Paladin talents, there's been quite a few changes. There's been quite a few changes that have been happening. So if you look at tier 75, you will see that Judgment of Light is there. Judgment of Light has made its way in there. And now Judgment of Light is going to be competing with Holy Avenger and Holy Prism. Now Holy Prism from the start should have been tuned. I don't see it as a bad spell or bad or good. It's just never been used. The numbers are not there. It just doesn't convert to something that's going to be used in raids or 5-mans. Now either change the number values, make it more appealing, or actually completely remove it, because it has not seen the playtime that a talent should see in order for it to be used in the future. And now Judgment of Light is very strong. It's very strong for raiding environment. Holy Avenger has been very strong as well for 5-mans and raids. I can already see it. The Judgment of Light will be your most likely your raid talent, and Holy Avenger will be a 5-man. But it's interesting. There's quite a bit of variation here. I don't mind it. Holy Prism, something should change with Holy Prism though. Now let's look at tier 90. So tier 90, Fervent Martyr has been removed. Thank God. And Avenging Crusader has been introduced there, and also the Awakening, the Topless Tower talent, has been put in there with Sanctified Wrath. Now Sanctified Wrath and Avenging Crusader are kind of similar in some ways if you think about it, because Sanctified Wrath gives you the option as stronger wings. Stronger wings can either give you more damage or healing. Avenging Crusader replaces your wings and gives you an option of dealing more damage and healing through that. So in some ways it can be interpreted into healing or damage, if you wish so. Now, it's quite exciting. Now, the Awakening, the proc, I'm not a huge fan of it. But I mean, you can see its uses as well. It's an interesting tier. Honestly, it's an interesting tier to choose from, and I don't see anything too wrong with this. And I'm excited. I'm excited. Now, let's look at tier 100. And tier 100 has been really, really weird in terms of what's going to happen here. So Divine Purpose, another proc ability, Light of Dawn and Holy Shock has a 15% chance to not start the cooldown and make the next cast free. So Divine Purpose, at the start I wasn't a huge fan of having something so orangey. This does not use a deck system, so no matter how many times you're going to cast Holy Light or Light of Dawn, or sorry, Holy Shock or Light of Dawn, it doesn't matter how many times you're going to be casted, it's all going to be random. Whether you're gonna get a cooldown or not. It's like sometimes you see 5 in a row, 5 free Light of Dawns, or sometimes you see nothing. So at the start I actually didn't like it, but I actually started using it, and I feel it's actually quite a fun talent to use, because every time you're going to use your Light of Dawn or Holy Shock and it's going to proc, there's going to be a window where you can use it in, like 8-10 seconds or whatever you can use it on, based on a cooldown you have, based on a haste and things like that. But there's going to be a window that you can use it, and considering Holy Shock and Light of Dawn almost like you almost always cast it all the time, it doesn't seem like it's going to be wasted anyways. So I actually enjoy Divine Purpose. It's one of those talents, one of those orangey talents for healers that I actually enjoy using. Now it's going to compete with Beacon of Fate. Beacon of Fate has been nerfed, and it's going to compete with Beacon of Virtue, which in my opinion is one of the best and most fun spells that's been invented in the game, or at least for Holy Paladins. Beacon of Virtue is so fun in 5-mans. It made 5-mans Holy Paladin healing feel so much more engaging rather than just spamming a single target spell and things like that. Beacon of Virtue is awesome. Never ever remove that. A great 5-man talent. Now, raid scenarios, Beacon of Fate, even with the nerf, I feel Beacon of Fate is going to be too strong. And I was really thinking about this for a while. Do Holy Paladins need 2 beacons? Can Holy Paladins survive with just 1 beacon? Or is Beacon of Fate is just going to be too strong forever? And honestly, I feel like Beacon of Fate could almost be turned into a baseline ability for Holy Paladins, because I don't see Holy Paladins not using Beacon of Fate. Beacon of Fate just fits the whole raid meta of 2 tanks, 3 tanks, or whatever, and being extremely strong. Should Beacon of Fate be turned into baseline ability, and then you have an option of choosing Beacon of Virtue, maybe an improved version of Beacon of Virtue for 5-mans, and then you would have like Divine Purpose and some other talent to choose from. I'm not sure. I really was thinking about this for a while. I'm not completely sure. I feel it's going to be really hard to remove Beacon of Fate, and to actually start using Divine Purpose. Like right now, Divine Purpose in tier 100 does not seem right for me. It just does not seem as a good option or a replacement instead of Beacon of Fate or Beacon of Virtue from 5-mans. I'll still be using Beacon of Virtue for 5-mans, and I'll still be using Beacon of Fate for raids. Divine Purpose, I don't know. Do I want the orange? Like, if it does not feel right at the moment, and I hope Blizzard is actually going to change a few things here. So this has been my overview of Holy Paladin changes, and there's been quite a few changes. There's been quite a few discussions about beacons. There's been quite a few discussions with Holy Shock, new talents. Please let me know how you feel about this. Please let me know how you feel about Holy Paladins in general. I'm relatively excited. I feel that these are okay changes. I'm excited to try out the new talents. I'm really excited about the concept of dealing damage and healing it back to targets. I said this from the very start and mentioned this again. I feel every healer should have a talent very similar to Avenging Crusader, where your damage is going to be converted to healing. And you'll see, and you'll finally, the poke healers or new players or whatever will have a legitimate reason to help out their DPS and heal back their DPS at the same time. I'm really happy. I'm really excited about this. Let me know how you feel, and I'll see you in my next video.